Who would win in a fight between the Admirals or the Yonko with their commanders? Now, to try to make this as fair as possible, let's also give the Admirals, I don't know, their Vice Admirals as well. But even if we do that, it's going to be the Yonko, and it's not even close. It's already been stated several times in the series by Garp and several other Marines that if two of the Emperors were to team up together, they're basically unstoppable. Keep in mind, just to fight the Whitebeard pirates with a sick, dying, old out of his prime Whitebeard, they needed to get everything that they had, including all the warlords, under one roof to fight him. And that's because each of the Emperors alone are an institution similar to that of the Marines. Any one of these four can rival the entirety of the world government. Which is why just to fight one of these groups, and the weakest one at that, because it was Whitebeard at the time, they needed everything under the sun just to be able to fight him. And what you're doing is now adding Big Mom and all of her stuff into that equation. Kaido and then Shanks be doing the same thing too. And whether you think some of the higher end Yonko commanders can go toe to toe with Admirals or not is like beside the point. Because the fact of the matter is, majority of these guys can fight an Admiral 1v1 and at least hold their own, even if they don't win. Which is what happened at Marineford, because you had Jozu fighting Aokiji and you had Kizaru fighting Marco, and they were both holding their own pretty much indefinitely until they saw this happen to Whitebeard. But the point is, with the three Admirals there, two Admirals had to deal with two Yonko commanders while one of them fought the Yonko. Now, in a case where they got to fight all the Yonko commanders plus the Emperors at the same time, if they holding their own fighting people like Marco and King and whatnot, who's dealing with the Emperor themselves? Because we know that no Admiral is going to beat an Emperor in a 1v1. That's just, it's not going to happen, especially out of the old bunch. Stuff like this didn't even kill a sick, dying out of his prime Whitebeard who already just had a heart attack. What do you think this is going to do to Big Mom or Kaido? We already saw that Shanks can block stuff like this with his sword, so in that case, you have a better argument to say like these guys fighting the newer Emperors, and even then, I'd say that they still lose. Because without giving out too much from Egghead, minor spoiler by the way, and despite having a limited amount of time in Gear 5, Luffy did very well fighting against Kizaru. And by very well, I mean he put him to sleep. Meanwhile, in Blackbeard's case, despite taking way more damage than other people do because of his Devil Fruit, he took a quake to the face, point blank, and he got back up. Not to mention, right, I'm pretty sure Blackbeard at the end of the series is going to be awakened, so he can probably create like a giant domain expansion that, hey, if you're inside of here, you can't use Devil Fruits except me. So none of the Admirals can use their Devil Fruits. Meanwhile, every time Blackbeard punches one of them, this is what happens to the outside world. Yeah, if they couldn't stop him at Marineford where he just got the power and he's nowhere near as strong as he is right now, it's over for him. And while Bucky isn't as strong as the other people, he does have two stand. The first one being Mihawk, and if you want to know what he can do, just look at Shanks and add another arm to it. Mihawk. As for Crocodile, this dude's been showing out since Marineford, and against Doflamingo, Mihawk, and Akainu himself. Not to mention when you say commanders, we're also taking people like Lucky Rube, Ben Beckman, all of Blackbeard's commanders, Kuzan. I don't know how that's going to work because, you know, he's also like on the side of the Admirals in this, you know, hypothetical argument, but we'll add Kuzan. And then of course, all the Straw Hats. So like, no, in no universe, in no way, shape or form do any of the Admirals come out on top if they fight all the Emperors at the same time. It is a slaughter. And to end this off, I'll quote a very racist piece of broccoli. Do you get it? If Kaido were still in charge, I wouldn't have come here. They know that they lose.